Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to the Vanishing Hour podcast. Once again, I'm Snow, and I will be your hosty host for tonight's episode. Tonight, we will be delving into the horrible and puzzling murder of Faith Hedgepeth. So I know this is a known murder case and not a vanishing case per se, but here's why I'm doing it. You see, I've got lists. Hundreds of lists of cases all scribbled in notebooks. I've got them on post-it notes on my desktop, in my phone, on Google Docs. I've just got lists. I have so many lists to the point that I actually ended up overwhelming myself and needing an adult. So I kind of just collapsed into myself for a bit, browsing through cases for several hours, aimlessly, until this case picked me. It picked me the second I laid eyes on it, and even though it is not a disappearance case, it just rubbed me in all sorts of wrong, ugly ways, and I feel compelled to pick up my shovel and start digging. This girl and I were the same age at the time of her death, and it's sad because I can remember where I was and what I was doing at this time in my life, and it's just not fair that she can't be sitting here today able to do the same thing. So because of that, we are here now, and I am officially and cordially inviting you to come dig along with me. Grab your shovels and let's go. So, Faith was born September 26, 1992, to parents Roland and Connie Hedgepeth. She also had an older sister by the name of Rolanda, who was 18 years older than her, and essentially acted as a second mom to her. She had two brothers too, although older or younger, I'm not sure, because unfortunately they weren't really brought up. But they existed, so there's that. Her parents divorced before her first birthday, and she ended up being raised by her mom with help from her older sister. But she still maintained a relationship with her father, and he appeared to play an active role in her life. Faith grew up in Hollister, North Carolina, where she was recognized as a member of the Haliwa Saponi tribal community, which I think I said right, which I also think is fucking awesome. Faith was not only extremely gorgeous, but she was smart too. In high school, not only was she an honor student, but she was a cheerleader and participated in several extracurricular activities, clubs, and organizations. That's like a lot, guys. I was stressed just reading that. It took everything I had in me to scrape by in independent studies in order to graduate with my class. For me, it's social shit. It's mentally draining as fuck for me, and even to this day it is. I just get all about it, and so good for her. She didn't have the same issue. I was always way more busy running home from school to try and catch the Montel Williams show, especially on Wednesdays, because a motherfucking Sylvia Brown was on, and 15, 16-year-old Snow believed that she saved lives. Now, not so much anymore. God bless that woman's soul. But anyways, back to Faith. So Faith did the damn thing, and she ended up earning herself a Gates Millennium Scholarship to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where she attended and successfully completed her freshman and sophomore year. She was debating between pursuing a career in pediatrics or teaching, and she had dreams of becoming the first member in her family to graduate from college. At the time of Faith's death, she was also working part-time at a Red Robin restaurant. Faith was initially staying at an off-campus apartment located at the Hawthorne at the View complex with her friend, and I'm using that term loosely here, since freshman year, Karina Rosario, and Karina's then-boyfriend at the time, Eric Tacoy Jones. It's spelled with a Q, so you might catch me saying Eric by accident. I am apologizing in advance, but when I was proofreading this, I found that I just kept saying Eric. Faith was making plans to move into her own apartment once her financial aid came through, though, which should have been within the next couple of weeks. Karina and Eric's relationship was fucking chaotic, to say the least. There were reports of domestic violence between the two of them, and Eric was known to be very volatile and abusive towards Karina. Eventually, Karina decided to break things off with Eric, and he subsequently moved out of the one-bedroom apartment. That however, did not deter him from harassing both women. Sometime in early July of 2012, Eric reportedly attempted to break into the girls' apartment twice, even after Karina had the locks changed. By this point, Faith was like, all right, I've had enough of this shit. And she actually drove Karina to the courthouse to get the protective order issued that stated that Eric had to stay the fuck away from the apartment. But anyway, because of this shithead felt that this was Faith's fault and made a point to threaten her, claiming he would, quote, kill her if he could not get back together with Rosario, aka Karina. No, that's not how that works, cheese dick. Maybe don't lay your hands on her and she won't want to throw your ass out. There you go, just uncomplicated that for you. But anyway, Faith had decided to take the spring semester of 2012 off, but she remained at Chapel Hill and continued to spend her summer there while waiting for her financial aid to come through so she could continue to go to school in the fall. So on Thursday, September 6, 2012, by all accounts, this was a normal day for Faith. She went to class in the morning, saw her friends, and even talked to her family. At around 5:45, 6 p.m.-ish that day, Faith headed over to Shadowwood Apartments for a rush event for the university's Alpha Pi Omega sorority, which was a well-known Native American sorority and a sorority that she was hoping to join. She arrived a little early, being that she wasn't completely familiar with the area, and she wanted to get a feel for it and just chilled in her car until a fellow friend and junior named Victoria showed up, which honestly, girl, same. I always scout ahead and just sit in my car like a weirdo because I get too much anxiety heading into somewhere that I don't know nothing about. And I end up looking like a jackass, and then I end up leaving out of embarrassment. It's usually just this whole big ordeal. Anyway, 7:15-ish rolls around, and Faith decides to leave the event. She tells her friends there that she has a paper she needs to finish. According to a source, she was actually working on a paper about the history of the Haliwa Saponi tribe and her heritage. So Faith decides to head over to Davis Library with her BFF, Karina. At some point during her time at the library, she has a text conversation with her dad, Roland. Roland says, quote, she asked me what's wrong. I don't know how she knew I was right in the middle of a crisis. We texted back and forth, and the last thing she told me was, just have faith, Daddy. I promise it'll work out. Like, fuck me. Like, for those to be the last words your kid tells you before their life is taken away is just, I don't like that. Roland said he regrets not calling her then and just told himself he would call her tomorrow. Unfortunately, tomorrow never came. As a parent, that type of shit just, like, haunts the fuck out of you, I bet. It really does. Roland received his last text from his daughter at 9:03 p.m. The text mentioned the Alpha Pi Omega event Faith had attended, and that she planned to catch up with him over the weekend. At some point, both girls did leave the library, and they headed back to their apartment. A little after midnight, both Karina and Faith left their apartment and arrived at Chapel Hill nightclub, The Thrill, on Rosemary Street. Surveillance cameras at the club show the two of them arriving at about 12:40 a.m. The club is no longer open, but at the time it did allow people under the age of 21 in for dancing, and dancing only. At about 2:06 a.m., surveillance cameras capture both Karina and Faith leaving The Thrill. Karina told investigators that they left because her stomach was upset and she wanted to go home. In the court-released documents that are released way later on page 95, an investigator to the case states that surveillance video from The Thrill shows Faith leaving with an unidentified male. The same video footage shows that same guy arriving earlier in the evening with 3 other unidentified guys. At some point, police notice one of the 3 guys is approached by another guy by the name of Chris White, who I think was a former employee of The Thrill based on the context of the report. The investigators essentially use White to help identify the men that were there that night. They are eventually able to identify the man leaving Thrill with Faith, and they interview him. He says that he didn't really know Faith well, but that he saw her there that night and talked to her before leaving. When asked for a DNA sample, he refused, saying that, quote, he had touched her that night and essentially didn't want to incriminate himself. I don't think that's how DNA works, pal, unless touch doesn't really mean touch to you, but alright. He says he left with friends and went back to his house. Unfortunately, his name is redacted, so I don't know if he was eventually court-ordered to give up his DNA or what happened with him. But I felt that was kind of an important detail to add in there. Anyway, at around 3 a.m., the downstairs neighbor to the girls is a woman, and she is up watching TV, just chilling, when she hears 3 very loud, very distinctive thumps. She said they sounded very similar to a heavy bag being dropped or furniture being overturned, which, I don't like that. I wonder if she heard voices too. Knowing me, I'd immediately mute the TV and be standing on a fucking chair trying to catch any sort of noise I could, because loud thumps at the devil's hour is nothing to fuck with. It was at this time, though, that some weird shit started going on. So a text message was sent from Faith's phone to a guy named Brandon Edwards, who was actually Faith's ex-boyfriend, not Karina's, which is why I'm confused as fuck. But the text message said, quote, "Hey B, can you come over here please? Rosario, aka Karina, needs you more, aha. You know. Please let her know you care." End quote. 3 minutes later, another text from her phone is sent to him, simply stating, "Than," which is assumed to be a correction for the aha, which would then make the text read, "Hey B, can you come over here please? Rosario needs you more than you know. Please let her know you care." Which right away has me asking questions. So, since it's known that Brandon and Faith are no longer together, and Karina ditched Dick Cheese Eric, was Karina then seeing Brandon? Or was she interested in him at least? Because otherwise, why the fuck would Brandon give a rat's ass about Karina? And why would Faith, if it was Faith sending the text, be sending him a text about her? Brandon even responds back at 4:16 a.m. literally asking who sent the previous text. Even he is like, what the fuck is going on here? Who am I talking to? Almost like either he doesn't have any idea why Karina matters to him, or that it doesn't sound like Faith is the one who's texting him. This text conversation is very interesting, and I think it ties to a key piece of evidence found later. But let's move on. It is also noted at this time that Faith's Facebook page is accessed as well. Don't really know why or what was done, but here, have that piece of information. So, funny enough, not only is Faith's phone trying to contact Brandon, but apparently Karina's phone is also trying to contact him. Her cell phone records indicated that she made attempts to call him, in which he did not answer the call or calls. He's probably thinking this chick is fucking nuts and I'm not having any part of it. Again, not answering while we know he is awake at this time is very telling of the situation. So with Brandon not answering, Karina decides to call some guy named Jordan Crary, who, side note, as of 2019, happens to be a pro soccer player for Sacramento Republic FC. According to Karina, at 4:25 a.m., Jordan picks her up at her and Faith's apartment. Karina states that she assumed Faith was asleep in the bedroom, and so she left, leaving the front door unlocked. Why in the literal fuck would you do that? You have no good reason to leave your front door unlocked with your sleeping roommate/BFF in there, especially with your psycho ex-boyfriend who you have a restraining order against and who has attempted to break in on multiple occasions and has verbally threatened that very friend with her life for helping you out of a fucked up abusive relationship with him. That action alone tells me that Karina is just a shit friend and a shit human being. Like, what kind of fucking shitty messed up person are you? Just, like, come the fuck on. I don't believe her. I legit don't believe her. From what I could find, at least, there was never a given reason as to why she did that. It wasn't like she had stepped out and was planning on coming right back. She left. She had every intention of leaving and not coming back until the next day. I mean, she had the locks changed recently, so obviously she feared for their safety. So again, just why? Also, don't you have a fucking stomachache or the shits or something? Isn't that why you guys came home from the club?